comprehension of another classmate rather than digging in on their own. Also looking at level text and not looking at books that maybe are driven by their choice or gives them a broad range of reading opportunities. We also looked at, a lot of the times, fiction is the most common avenue in reading instruction, and students sometimes do not learn how to navigate the more complex text in informational text structures. Also, in the isolated, sometimes skill and drill, and if kids don't understand how to take that and transfer it into learning how to read, sometimes that will get in the way of their growth as a reader. So what we did, and when talking with Nell Duke and the recommendations from the research, they're looking at how to use our time more effectively. They're saying that we should spend 90 to 120 minutes a day in reading and writing instruction. However, Dr. Duke was very clear and pointed out that you can spend 90 minutes to 120 minutes, but if you're not being effective in instruction during that 90 minutes, it's not going to change what's happening in the classroom. So these were some of the recommended practices they put forth. So it's a read, think aloud, crafting, a mini lesson followed by in a strategy or skill to help develop the reader or writer. They were looking at interactive read alouds so that kids can turn and talk and process. They were talking about using shared reading where the kids actually choral read or would provide a response during that reading. Also looking at how do you compose within that group structure, practicing and helping children build independence. So teacher would conduct small groups, they would confer with students, and help students to read independently or with partners so that we could actually provide time so they were actually reading and actually being able to be held accountable for that reading. So they're also talking about at the end of that 90 minutes, pull the group back together and say, so what did you practice today? Or holding the children more accountable or the students more accountable for the work that was done during that time. So because of the Hill Project initiative that's going on there, we've had an opportunity to address some of these challenges. So we've dug into the GELN Essentials Training. So we were able to provide the teachers at Harrington training around Essential 2, which would be interactive read-alouds for age-appropriate books and other materials. We did that training with the help of the Binda Foundation in August, and these were some of the practices teachers said they would abandon based on the new information from the research. We also worked on addressing small group instruction, which is the GELN Essential number 3, was looking at small group and individual instruction using different grouping strategies. And these are the practices the teachers said we're going to abandon. So the work is continuing. At the district level, we provided training or partial training on Essential 3, working with small groups. That happened in October. It will continue in November. And at Harrington, because of the Hill Project, we are focusing on small group instruction and in read-alouds. And so we are doing walkthroughs and using a monitoring guide to support that work to ensure we are doing best practice in the classrooms. What questions might you have? Yes.
The percentages are great when we see the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys factor in how many kids didn't actually take the time to read them? And did you have the statistics on which kids said they read all the books or the number of books? Because it went up 15%, just assuming that they all read them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to be the case. So do you have an idea of the percentage of kids that really read all the books?
We could go back through the logs, and that may indicate, but we also don't know if that was something that was told to us.
Right.
I can tell you we had 45 students move, and it's in your packet.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said that.
Yeah.
Did
So
you guys catch that statistic? That's 20% of the kids that left in the spring moved out in the summertime, right? 20%, that's amazing.
So looking, we know we made a difference.
Right.
We know we
Right.
changed some kids' lives
Mhm.
by allowing them to have access to books. I do know that there were many, in the Bender report, there were some where the parents were grateful for, thank you for sending the books. And the kids, when several parents have even said to me, we really appreciate it. The kids really enjoyed getting mail because it came to them.
Yeah, that's an unanticipated outcome,
Yes, oh,
right?
yes.
And I think that's really cool, because that's actually a key in which to get kids excited about
Mhm.
learning, is to be able to give them their own mail coming
Mhm.
in the summertime, that it gets them to celebrate and it hooks them, right?
Mhm.
One of the things you mentioned was the intentional or interactive read-alouds.
Mhm.
I know that we have IRIP laws now that we have to monitor and do special support for kids that are beyond a grade level, below reading level.
Mhm.
Are there transfer skills that we can teach parents relative to interactive, intentional read-alouds at home that can assist us in educating the kid throughout the year, not just summer reading?
There should be. As you look at a read aloud, the basic format allows for interaction with students. These interactive read alouds that are supported by the GELN is looking specifically at developing vocabulary, developing some deeper comprehension skills, but just even a child and a parent reading out loud and talking about a book would support some of the work that we need to have done.
Right, or even knowing the right questions to
Right.
ask.
What are the right questions to ask?
Yeah.
It's not, we don't want the parent to be a taskmaster.
Mhm.
We want them to be a partner in the learning. So we want to provide that shift to helping them support their child as a reader.
Any other questions?
One more. It's really interesting to sit here and hear the presentation. I've read your presentation 3 or 4 times before we authorized it to go to Binda. But sitting back here, it's a different perspective. Are you tracking the students that showed maintain or growth during the year through Fontes and Pinnell benchmarking and progress monitoring and so forth? Are you tracking their growth to see if their rate of growth or their success rate is any different than those kids that did not participate?
Well, at Harrington, all the students participated.
Okay.
And
Well, then next to the relative what we would expect in loss, I guess. I'm just wondering if they're going to accelerate their learning because of this experience or not.
we won't know until the end of the school year. We may be able to look in January and make that determination because so many came back. We had 77% come back maintaining
Right.
reading progress. So we can look in January and see where the students are performing and make a guess that way.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to leadership team reports.
In your packet, under subsection 6C are the leadership team reports. I can see everybody's got the idea that pictures are good.
Pictures are always
Color
good.
pictures are even better. Actually, there's a lot of good information in here.
Absolutely.
Any comments or questions at this point? Did you know that the governor visited the MYCA? That was really cool.
Yep.
As Rhonda talked about, she brought about 20 of her cabinet members over in a couple vehicles and a bus. And they spent some really quality time with our cadets as best they could. They were going to be 35 minutes. They ended up being over an hour. And they were just really pleased with the overall outcome of it. And Mike Gillum, who is is he called commander or director? He is the director. Yeah. And Rhonda were able to walk through the process about the educational side of things and the military or the quasi-military side of things and the physical training they get, et cetera, and a couple cadets really honored the whole group by talking about what their goals are and how they've recommitted themselves to loftier and stronger goals, more rigorous goals in life. So it was a very good visit. Very well timed too. Obviously, they're dealing with the budget.
I know that conferences were last week. Did you get any indication from all of our different buildings as far as turnout with parent-teacher conferences?
You know, I haven't got
well
a,
attended?
no, I haven't got an outcome of that, but I mean, you could, I'm sure that anybody want to talk about your participation in conferences? They were.
I'll be patient.
Any other comments, questions? As always, thank you guys for supplying those. We really appreciate seeing those, especially the color pictures.
I like text.
You like what? Yeah, Brent likes to read a lot, so.
He likes text.
We'll move on to D, facility needs assessment updates.
So at your place, you get the general idea of the agenda. It's the Facility Needs Assessment Committee agenda and also the minutes. We'd like to kind of give you a little bit more detail behind that. We held our first meeting. We had 5 community members.
Yes.
5 community members. We identified a couple more for the core group. From the admin committee, we extended invitations. They both accepted. We have the next one coming up next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday or this Wednesday?
This coming Wednesday?
This Wednesday's the
Yeah, this
20th.
Wednesday, yeah, because tomorrow I have to do the tour.
Yeah.
Last week I did a tour of committee members to go see all 8, because not everybody, even when you think somebody's seen all of them, you haven't. You know, one of our committee members had kids in Gordon schools for, I think, 7 years or something like that, but really hasn't gotten around to see some other of the buildings. So it's nice to be able to do that. I know, Lisa, you guys all did that as a board, and I really appreciate that. So we're taking another tour tomorrow for those that weren't, Wednesday morning, thank you, for those that weren't able to participate before the committee meeting on Wednesday night. The big issue was to just slow down the process a little bit. The agenda that came in from King Scott had, and we had started with the expectation that we're going to move fast and have meetings every week. We don't feel like that's going to be the best course of action. We really need to take it slower, really take a review of the needs as they've been presented, try to help prioritize those needs first, put them in buckets that are appropriate for what we think are valuable objectives for the district, and then figure out from a funding stream, how can we start on that track before we even go further when we talk about our wish list. The next phase will be the wish list, where we're gonna invite other people in the communities and the board to come in. And we're gonna talk about what we want to see in our district over the next 10, 15 years. And what is that challenge going to be, both from a physical plant side, as well as enrollment projections and expectations, and then, of course, financial. So we're going to take it slower, and I think doing it slower is going to do it better for all of us to understand where we're going.
So when King Scott and CSM first presented us, they had a pretty aggressive timeline, so that's all being revamped. We haven't recreated when community forums are going to be or any of that type of stuff. So we're still trying to figure out taking this a little bit slower, what it's going to look like and when we're going to start having those. So once we get those, then we'll bring those back to you guys so you see what the adjusted schedule is going to look like and things like that. So. Anything else with that?
So are we still looking at the same deadline for considering the bond?
We're not, well, that's part of the reason of taking it slower. We don't want to rush into,
Okay.
we're jumping into a bond.
Okay.
Now, there are other things we can consider and look at, and I'll bring that to the board for options. But right now, we've postponed or canceled our treasury appointment that was held there in advance. We're not going to move with that.
Okay. It's probably a good idea.
I think so. Gives people a chance to really understand what our facilities are.
So we'll probably end up having this kind of as a standing
Oh, absolutely.
agenda item
Yeah.
for each week or each meeting, so.
Like for updates and
Yeah.
things like
Correct,
that?
yeah.
Mhm.
One of the things that King Scott said is they usually present a website link that you can go to and get these minutes and those kind of things. We'll try to get that incorporated into our district website and Facebook page so people can get connections to any of the minutes or the process that we're going through.
Any questions? Okay. Move on to discussion. A, board policy updates, first read.
Okay. Volumes 33-1, Volume 32-2, Volume 32-1, and special update October 2019. You'll see that there's some bylaws that are being changed. There's a new one on the use of social media. There's a new one on cancellation. The rest of them are revised from existing bylaws. If you go to the next page, we have pretty much most revisions. There is a new and revised policy on administrator staff discipline that you're going to want to look at. We have a new policy, local only, on district and school report card. It's in there. There's a PA annual reports revised, it's in there, or new, I'm sorry. No, it's revised, local only. And what other highlights out of this group? We are rescinding a policy. And of course, then policy follows that'll support the same direction. We're rescinding the expulsion suspensions required by statute. We're rescinding prevailing wage coordinator. The rest of them are revised. And it gives you some of the background behind each of those. I didn't want to belabor the point, but you guys can read this, see the materials in front of you, and look at that as a first reading.
So then that'll come back to us. Will we do it at the next meeting or a month
Yep,
from now?
November,
The next November meeting?
in November, right? Yes. Yeah.
So if there's questions anybody has in the meantime, you can always reach out to Randy before the meeting, but we'll take action on that at the next meeting. Any questions on those right now?
It's too many.
Yeah, there's a lot. Okay, we'll move on to board policy updates, the second reads. These are the ones that we did discuss.
Okay, and I guess my opening remarks should have been just to introduce for the audience that we do Neola, Neola. There's a company that does board policies and bylaws for public school systems in Ohio and Michigan. Most every school district is involved with Neola in the state of Michigan. These are vetted through legislative action, they're vetted through legal court cases and rulings across the land. And they come in and they give us, sometimes they'll give us some options. I'll choose those options based on the way we operate within the district. Those are options that you're going to want to pay attention to when I check them and say, okay, if you have any questions about why I chose that option, I'll let you know. But it's pretty consistent. We have previous superintendents that take on this role to come in as a liaison to the districts and sit down and walk through the board policies and bylaws and why the changes are there. Sometimes there are policies that I can just simply choose not to adopt. They're going to go into a folder, so you'll be able to see those when we go to the electronic. You'll be able to see a folder that shows you the policies that at this time I chose not to adopt. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. They can also come back for a review, especially when they get revised or they get maybe refined a little bit better. Sometimes I'll look at a policy and say, no, I don't think so. It's not going to work for the district. It's not going to work for our staff or our board. And I'll have really good sound reasons for why I do that. It's not just something that I don't want to add a policy to the board. Believe me, we have enough policies in this board policy. We don't shy away from them. When we go to electronic, I believe we'll be ready to train you on the electronic version, and I think it's great to be able to do that under your board professional development stage next month, because the audience can actually see it as well, and that might give them an opportunity to be able to know how they can access policies. So this is what you reviewed last time. We're now at the point where we need to vote and enact these. Do you have any particular questions that you have at this point?
You want us to jump to action and take an action and then do discussion?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, can you?
Thank you.
So we're going to move to action item, board policy, policy revisions and updates, volume 34.1 and volume 33.2. Could you read the background for us?
Sure. 34.1 and 33.2. Which one? Right here? Oh, sorry. At the October 14 work session, the board discussed recommendations received from Neola for update to specific board policies of volume 34.1 and volume 33.2. These policies are being presented tonight on board adoption. These policies have been available for public review in the superintendent's office since October 14, 2019. It's a recommendation of the superintendent the policies be approved and adopted.
May I entertain a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Discussion. I guess the one piece I'll just throw out is I think in the past we always had been 30 days. We realized that that's not a requirement, so we're able to do it as long as we give the public and us the time to review. So we'll present and then be able to take action at the next board meeting.
Any questions lingering from your first review?
How many years have you been using Neola? You said it last time, but I forget what you said.
Well, I've been using Neola for 17 years, but for Marshall's been using Neola, but prior to me coming on board in 2009, Marshall also did wordsmithing in the policies as they came back. And so there was a separate set of Marshall policies that Neola had to maintain along with all their other customers. And whenever revisions happened, they had to come back in and uniquely look at our board policy and any changes we made to make sure it made sense. So the alignment was not easy. There was one other district that did that. So there were two districts in Ohio and Michigan that did that. When I came in, I was not used to that. I abide by the process that they do. It gives me a lot of latitude within the process to ask questions, challenge the decisions, or challenge a policy if we don't like it. So in 2009, we adopted the new process that we're going through.
It's much nicer now that we can view everything online versus, the new system's going to be even a step further, but we used to get stacks like that, each board member, of paper that we'd have to review and things. So we've come a long way when it comes to policies, and this is as smooth as it's been since I've been on the board. So, any other questions related to volume 34.1 and volume 33.2? Okay, we'll start with Brent.
Yes.
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 Okay. Move to action item financial. Approve changes to the superintendent's contract. I'll read the background there. Personnel Committee met in open session on September 23rd, 2019, and discussed the superintendent's contract. Committee members were in favor of recommending changes to the superintendent's contract as presented. It is the recommendation of the board president that action item financial be approved as presented. Have a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Discussion. I think, Shauna, you're the lone person here from the
I am.
Personnel Committee, so.
They left
look
the
to you.
rookie to do the reporting.
I know.
Oh, I need my glasses for that. So basically, we decided on a 4.7% increase.
Okay.
4.8? Okay. This is what happens when they leave the rookie to do the job. That's what I thought, but she said 4.7. Okay, so the 4.8% increase, and then also $2,000 increase in the annuity, is that correct? And we came to that number based on the amount of increase for someone who had, a teacher who had a bachelor's degree. Partly because we know that Dr. Davis is not
Randy's
going
fine.
to allow us to give him a whole lot more. And then we also wanted to acknowledge the fact that he received, I can't remember the name of for his evaluation.
Oh,
Highly effective.
Highly effective, yes, I was gonna say highly qualified, but that's not the right term. So because he received highly effective, we also wanted to show that in the amount that we came up with to compensate, but then we also knew that we didn't want to give him, too much more as far as an annual increase, because, well, one, we know you wouldn't take it, and two, we also, take into consideration what others are getting, so.
Thank you. I
And
think
we
it's
wanted
very
to make sure,
reasonable.
we wanted to make sure that you are also in line with other districts in our area that had the same amount of students, so
All right.
that's where we came up with it.
Thank you, the committee, for doing that. Any questions, comments? I'll just add on one piece that not only was he highly effective, but he's been highly effective each year he's been here, so kudos to you, and appreciate that.
You're not world
Um,
beaters.
Who said that?
If there's no further discussion, we'll start with Larry.
Yes.
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 Okay. We will now move to public comments. Anyone can speak to the board. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to board member comments for which no action may be taken at this meeting.
I just want to say it's good to see our students in the audience from their government class. So I know that Ms. Herman and I had a great discussion at conferences as far as like future ideas and things. So it was a great talk. So thank you for that. And it's just good to see all of you guys here. So
Oh, for sure, you talk about Saturday.
just leaving it for someone else. But yeah, go Red Hawks on Saturday. Football playoffs. And that being said, though, I think it would be remiss of me if I didn't say, like, all of our sports
Oh, it's
teams
been
this
amazing.
fall. It's been an amazing fall at in Marshall and Albion with our sports teams and just across the board. Just we have so much to celebrate here.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to let you guys know that I went to one of the big read facilitations, the last board meeting, so that's why I wasn't here. But that was really awesome. They were kind of, they made me feel good because they were like, I'm representing the board being there. So that was kind of cool to hear them, be excited about us being able to come. But it was just an amazing conversation with some amazing young people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Carrie's actually there tonight.
Mhm,
so-
that's what she said.
So,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you. Anything else?
Go Brits.
Go Brits, yeah.
We'll see.
That'll be a good one.
It definitely will be.
Good.
It'll be entertaining.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
You said entertaining.
I will.